Tonight on Reporting Scotland. Jailed 12 years behind bars for the former A&E consultant who hoarded submachine guns and ammunition with the intent to kill. 5 medals for Team Scotland on the first day of the Commonwealth Games, including gold for Neil Fahey in the velodrome.
I mean, winning 4 years ago in Glasgow was truly special, but you know, it's just as momentous here.
Also on the programme, the funeral of Cardinal Keith O'Brien has taken place in Newcastle. Strikes suspended. Aberdeen bus drivers call off industrial action after an offer from First. And whiteout winter. It's been a bumper season for Scotland's ski resorts. Good evening. A former accident and emergency consultant has been jailed for 12 years for possessing submachine guns, pistols and ammunition with the intent to endanger life. After he's released from prison, he'll be supervised for a further 3 years. Police found the cache of weapons at Martin Watt's home in Cumbernauld, along with a hit list of former colleagues. Aileen Clark reports.
Martin Watt worked in the Accident and Emergency Department of Monklands Hospital in Airdrie. Here he is speaking to BBC's Panorama programme about the violence which regularly brought casualties to his ward.
At least 1, 2, 3 people have been slashed in the face. A barmaid who was injured got caught in the crossfire.
But after he was sacked from the hospital, his own mind turned to violence. Tipped off by the kind of packages being sent to his Cumbernauld home, police found a serious arsenal of weapons there. 3 Scorpion submachine guns, 2 pistols, all in working order, having been modified by Watt, and more than 1,500 rounds of ammunition to go with them. A sinister list was also found with names and addresses of former colleagues linked to his disciplinary process. Watt said he had taken inspiration from this film about mercenaries, but maintained he intended no harm. The jury in his trial last month didn't agree. On sentencing, the judge, Lady Stacey, said to Watt, "You had a bad guy's assassination list. You had researched routes to addresses and practiced shooting to make yourself a better marksman. You're a well-educated and intelligent man," she said. "You must appreciate the laws on firearms are strict for good reason. These are lethal weapons, and you had live ammunition." She said, "You had them with intent to endanger life, and I take the view that you represent a danger to the public." And she sentenced him to 12 years in jail with 3 years of supervision once released. After leaving prison, Watt will also have to give notice of a visit to any NHS building, unless it's an emergency admission. The chief executive of NHS Lanarkshire said today they took reassurance from such specific access restrictions. Martin Watt, who has no previous convictions, spent more than 30 years treating the injured and the ill in the NHS. The judge today said to him, "It's sad to see a man who has held the positions you have held in this situation, but I must protect the public." Aileen Clark, Reporting Scotland at the High Court in Glasgow.
Day 1 of the Commonwealth Games in Australia is over and Scotland has 5 medals to show for it. There was drama in the swimming pool where Hannah Miley and Ross Murdoch were defending their Commonwealth titles. But before that, Scotland struck cycling gold, as Rona McLeod reports from Gold Coast.
Sunrise on day 1 in the Gold Coast, and for Team Scotland, it was a good day. The first gold in Scotland's Games. Defending champion Neil Fahey was dominant in the visually impaired kilometre, with his pilot Matt Rotherham.
Neil Fahey powering away, 59.935, a new Games record.
Winning 4 years ago in Glasgow was truly special, but you know, it's just as momentous here. The ride didn't go entirely to plan, but it was good enough to win today.
Triathlete Mark Austin was mixing it with the very best, beating both Olympic and world champion Brownlee brothers in the process. A bronze medal, and the 24-year-old admits the effort required was immense, and he collapsed over the line at the finish.
Holds on for the bronze for Scotland.
Yeah, my whole arms, torso, legs, everything just sort of filled up, and I was really worried, just thinking, oh no, this is just going to be one of those like agonising fourth places. We're getting caught on the line, but when I crossed the line, that was when I knew I had it. Like it was touch and go.
A podium finish, the biggest moment in his career, but take a close look at that tracksuit. Austin has since told me that it belonged to his teammate Beth Potter, as he failed to pack his own podium attire.
I guess I just didn't really want to be too presumptuous and just kind of, felt like I was assuming I was going to get a medal. But
So did Beth come to the rescue, or did you have to go and ask her?
there was a few messages on WhatsApp. I wasn't involved, but she was, I think, having lunch with her parents, so it was pretty nice of her to ditch that and come over and give me her presentation tracksuit. So but she found it funny as well. So.
Scotland's men's team won a hard-fought bronze in gymnastics. They sat in 4th spot going into the final rotation, but their impressive floor routines took them to the podium. And there were 2 more medals today for Team Scotland. They came in the swimming pool in a night filled with anticipation and drama. Jane Lewis was there.
She had hopes of becoming Scotland's golden girl on day 1 in the pool, but had to settle for silver. Gold would have seen Miley make history, but there was no 3rd consecutive Commonwealth title for the 28-year-old, pipped by England's Amy Wilmot in the 400 metres individual medley. It wasn't quite the historic gold everyone was talking about, but you're not too disappointed, are you?
No, definitely not. I mean, as I say, the fact it's my 4th games, and to be on a podium for the same event for the 3rd time is no small feat. So I'm really, really proud. Obviously, I know a lot of people were gunning and rooting for me, and I thank everybody for their support. I really did give it my all, and it's going to sound daft. I can only apologise that it wasn't the gold, but that's sport.
Well, that medal for Miley, not the only one coming in the pool for Scotland today. There's Ross Murdoch there showing off his silver medal. With royalty watching on, Murdoch was also eyeing a successful defence of his Commonwealth title in the 200 metres breaststroke.
The defending champion, Ross Murdoch of Scotland.
A British 1-2 for Prince Charles to cheer. It was close, but Murdoch had to be content with 2nd place behind James Wilby of England.
Obviously, I'm a little bit disappointed just now. I really wanted to get the gold tonight. I'd love to have heard the Flower of Scotland, sung to me one more time. Because I might not get that opportunity again in 4 years' time. So, I'd love to have got that gold for Scotland, but I'm happy enough.
Well, it was gold in Glasgow 4 years ago.
Fellow Scots Craig Benson and Callum Tate failed to medal in the same event. And while tonight was tinged with some disappointment in the pool, the swimmers have helped Scotland to a healthy medal tally of 5 on day 1.
The funeral of Cardinal Keith O'Brien, formerly the most senior Catholic in Scotland, has taken place in Newcastle today. He resigned as Archbishop of St Andrews in Edinburgh in 2013 after admitting sexual misconduct with 3 priests and a former priest. During the Requiem Mass, the congregation was asked to pray for him and for those he had offended. Stephen Godden has more.
Outside a Newcastle church, the Requiem Mass for Cardinal Keith O'Brien draws to a close. Once Scotland's most senior Catholic cleric, the final years of his life were shaped by his fall from grace. Allegations that emerged in 2013 were followed by admission, resignation and a retreat from public life. Leading the congregation today, the Archbishop of Westminster's theme was one of mercy.
Every human life is flawed, and everybody knows some of the ways in which Cardinal O'Brien's life was flawed. Every human life has fruit in it, and many people in the church would speak of the good that he did. A day like today, we don't come either to praise or to blame.
Inside St Michael's Church, around 200 mourners were asked to pray for Keith O'Brien and also those he'd offended, who, in his final will, he'd asked for forgiveness. In 2001, the funeral of Scotland's previous Cardinal, Thomas Winning, was compared to a state occasion. Today offered a contrast. Many travelled by bus from Scotland to join family members in the congregation.
There's one judge that we're all going to have to face, and Keith, we were with him in the end of his life, and he was, as many people have said, he was at peace with himself. He had made his peace with his God, as he saw it, our God as well, and he was prepared for what was to come.
Tomorrow, Keith O'Brien will be buried in Edinburgh, not at the cathedral as he wished, but next to his parents in Mount Vernon Cemetery, a final resting place for the Cardinal, whose life, lightness and darkness, it was said today, had been laid bare. Stephen Godden, reporting Scotland, Newcastle.
An all-out bus strike set to take place in Aberdeen tomorrow has been suspended. After 2 days of talks with the conciliation service ACAS, First Aberdeen has made a new offer to members of the Unite Union over changes to drivers' contracts. Rebecca Curran reports.
Business as usual today, but tomorrow it could have been a different story. An all-out indefinite strike was planned as a dispute over new contracts for First Aberdeen bus drivers escalated. But today a development. After 2 days of talks, a new offer is now on the table.
There has been improvements on what was previously tabled. Ultimately, we're still here in a position to try and make the business as sustainable as possible, but we feel that there's been concessions given on both sides to a position where we think that, assuming that the ballot goes through, that parties can be relatively happy where we've got to.
The Unite Union had argued the previous offer would leave drivers thousands of pounds out of pocket.
We have decided to suspend the industrial action that was due to recommence tomorrow to allow our members to ballot over Friday and Monday. If the members reject that proposals, we've agreed that we would put the action back on again next Wednesday.
Over the past couple of weeks, the strike action has escalated from 12-hour stoppages to a week-long walkout, causing problems for passengers.
I've had to cancel all my hospital appointments and reschedule everything. Epileptic, have the taxi everywhere and all of that, not allowed out myself. So it's kind of hitting me big time in Aberdeen.
Well, next week was going to be no buses at all, so that was more or less a prison sentence for me because I'd have been stuck in a house, you know.
We can't meet for coffee or, you know, when you're older, this is what you want to do, you know.
Passengers aren't the only ones to have been affected by this strike. Some businesses here in the city centre are reporting a drop in footfall and sales on days of industrial action. It's not over yet, but both parties have taken a significant step towards a resolution. Rebecca Curran, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
Increasing demand for services in an era of falling budgets. That's the potent problem councils are facing, according to the Accounts Commission. The local authority watchdog says making savings is increasingly critical. Ministers say councils are being treated fairly. Our political correspondent Andrew Kerr picks up the story.
The time for splashing the cash has gone. Here in Greenock, the council will stop funding free swimming for the over 60s, much to the annoyance of those who benefit.
It's shameful what they're doing. I'm ashamed of them, and they should be ashamed for what they're doing to their senior citizens. Taking something pleasure, something that keeps them in good health, well-being, it's wrong.
12 years free swimming, and now I've got to pay £380 a year. And I go to the pool now roughly 3-4 days a week. Not happy with that at all whatsoever.
For the council, it's a necessary trim on expenditure. Across Scotland, budgets have been cut by almost 10% over 8 years.
We in Inverclyde are in a perfect storm here. The very fact that we've got an increasing elderly population, at the same time our population in general is declining, means that we've got to make savings.
Councils don't want to sink into the red as demand rises and funding falls. Their watchdog, the Accounts Commission, says there's not a healthy outlook.
The pressures will continue to grow, and councils delivering the same services in the same manner as they have in the past and simply seeking to do that more cheaply won't be adequate to the task.
The Scottish Conservatives strongly dispute that the level of cuts match those from the UK government. But the Finance Secretary says he's doing his best, considering the hand he's been dealt.
The Tory government reduced the budget to Scotland, and I've made up for that through the spending and tax decisions that we've been bold enough to take, and that's allowed a real terms increase for local government in this financial year.
We can't begin to tackle poverty and inequality in communities if local councils are basically on their knees, and that's what the report is telling us. So I would really ask Derek Mackay to think again.
So there are smaller budgets but big challenges. Ministers think a whole-scale reorganisation of the council map isn't actually worth it. But councils are calling for their funding settlements to be made over a number of years instead of just one, so they can plan effectively for the future. Andrew Kerr, reporting Scotland, Renfrew.
A man who admitted killing a 20-year-old woman he'd just met after strangling her during sex has been jailed for 6 years. Chloe Miazek from Kemney was found dead at flats in the Rosemount Viaduct area of Aberdeen in November last year. She met support worker Mark Bruce, who's 32, by chance and went to his flat. Bruce earlier admitted culpable homicide and was jailed at the High Court in Edinburgh. A man's appeared in court charged with the murder of a man found in a flat in the Castlemilk area of Glasgow early on Tuesday morning. The body of the 49-year-old was discovered after police were called to a disturbance on Raithburn Road. Mohammed Rauf from Easterhouse made no plea or declaration and was remanded in custody. 8 children, including a baby and 2 women, were in the flat when officers arrived. You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's 7:15. A reminder of tonight's top story. Former A&E consultant is jailed for 12 years for hoarding submachine guns and ammunition with the intent to kill. And still to come, Hibs boss Neil Lennon on using football to tackle mental health problems. It's just been announced the Health Secretary Shona Robison has said she will be officially intervening in the running of NHS Tayside. She's using her ministerial powers to call on the Chief Executive of the Scottish NHS to strengthen the leadership of NHS Tayside. She said it had become clear that the board could not deliver the improvements which were needed while delivering safe care for patients. The Health Board had used charity cash to cover planned expenses, including a new computer system. It's the start of the new tax year tomorrow, and with it comes an unprecedented set of changes, particularly for Scottish taxpayers. Our business and economy editor, Douglas Fraser, joins me now. Let's just go through some of these, Douglas. Big changes in tax, first of all.
Lots of changes, but particularly for tax, particularly income tax, which is now set at Holyrood and paid to Holyrood as well. There are going to be new Scottish income tax rates, up 1 pence across most of the bands, and 5 bands instead of 3. Those earning up to £33,000 will be paying the same on a salary of that size, or slightly less for those earning at the lower end of it than they have been doing in the past year. Those earning more than £33,000 will see their tax bills go up. That's money paid to Holyrood compared with the past financial year. Also from tomorrow, some people will be paying more in Scotland than they would on the same pay in the rest of the UK. That's anyone who's earning more than £26,000. It's argued that helps to secure a higher standard of public services in Scotland. Also worth mentioning, council tax in every council area in Scotland goes up by 3% with the new financial year, and that is slightly lower than the average English increase.
And big changes in benefits too.
Yes, a lot of welfare changes, a squeeze over several years. These are set at Westminster. Working age claimants are going to continue to feel a freeze on the main benefits. It's the third year of a 4-year planned freeze. And with the rate of inflation touching 3% in the past year, that's a real cut in the spending power of that money. If you're on auto-enrolled pensions in your workplace, then the rate you have to pay, that's going to go up with a financial year. Better news, though, for those on lower pay, for those on the national living wage aged over 25, that's going to go up by nearly 5% to £7.83 per hour. And for pensioners, they will see a 3% increase in their pension payments starting from tomorrow.
Great, I think we've got all that. Thanks very much, Douglas Fraser. Cranes have moved in to start demolition work on buildings devastated by fire in Glasgow city centre. The blaze broke out in Victoria's nightclub on Sauchiehall Street exactly a fortnight ago. Glasgow City Council said the fire-ravaged buildings were unsafe and would have to be pulled down. Helicopters have been used to waterbomb a hill fire on the island of Rum. The blaze broke out yesterday, spreading to around 50 acres of heathland. Firefighters have visited the area but said there was no risk to property or to those living on the island, which is mostly owned by Scottish Natural Heritage. Football clubs can play a vital role in helping men tackle their mental health problems, so says the Hibs manager Neil Lennon. Having suffered in the past himself, he was speaking as he helped launch a pilot project which aims to use football to help more men open up. Here's our senior football reporter, Chris McLaughlin.
Every little thing you do is a victory, even putting your clothes on in the morning, as you know.
A changing room chat between two men. One a football manager, one a football fan. Both have suffered, both think football can help.
First step to recovery is to talk about it, to share it with somebody, whether it be a member of your family or someone close to you, and they can help you through it, or maybe advise you to go and get some help, or there's come to things like this now.
The Changing Room project encourages men to open up by coming along, in this case to Hibs, and talking about their problems in familiar surroundings.
We spoke to about 3,500 football fans last year, and they told us some of the activities that they would like to see from a project like the Changing Room includes walking football, male yoga, so lots of things for us to explore over the coming weeks.
Recent studies suggest men are 2.5 times more likely to commit suicide than women.
I'm a Hibs fan first and foremost, and I heard about the initiative through a couple of friends, and having struggled with my own mental health in the past and feeling like I've came through it, I think the link between football and getting guys to talk to each other is kind of one that I feel like should have been done years ago.
Do you feel then that since you came out public with it, you've managed to get on top of it? Or it's helped you get
better, yeah, no question. Yeah, I mean, the first time I had it was horrendous. And that lasted a long time. It lasted, a good 2.5 to 3 months, and when you're in the public eye, it becomes even more difficult, obviously. So now it still doesn't. It doesn't make it any easier, the feelings and the pain that you go through, but there is that sort of little glimmer at the end that you're going to get better.
With football now involved, the battle goes on. Chris McLaughlin, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Some of Scotland's ski resorts could be in for their best season ever, boosting business in some of the most rural communities. The continuous snow cover and low temperatures since December have brought bumper numbers to the country's slopes. Jackie O'Brien reports.
While some of us can't bear the sight of another snowflake, they can't get enough of the white stuff here at the Lech Ski Resort, which appears to be giving its overseas rivals a run for their money.
Normally, we go away on holiday to France or somewhere like that, but you don't really need to go to places like that if you've got this on your doorstep.
Well, if the conditions and the queues continue like this, Scotland's ski resorts are in for a record-breaking year. They've already doubled the number of skier days purchased by this time last year, and the season has still got some time left to run.
This season is on par to be maybe even the best season ever. Last year I paid off one of our guys 6 times, and this time I haven't paid off anybody since the beginning of the season, and we started operating on the 1st of December. So we've had a continuity all the way through.
For every pound spent on the slopes, 4 more are spent off the hill, bringing a cash boost to neighbouring communities like Tomintoul.
It's been great. We've seen a real upturn in tourists in the area, so it's been fabulous for us, but fabulous for the village as well, because we've got so many nice hotels, places to eat, so they're all taking bookings on the back of that.
Within the sort of northeast area, bookings coming in on a Tuesday for the weekend, so that points to people having that faith in the weather and faith in conditions that's so important in Scotland.
It's estimated that Scottish ski resorts have generated over £13 million for the economy so far this season, and confidence in the sector is high.
We're seeing centres investing in new technology, the snowmaking here at the Lech, for example, as well as diversifying the summer offer. So there's a lot more mountain biking, a wider range of activities that people can enjoy across all of our ski resorts.
A repeat performance cannot be guaranteed next season, but for now at least, Scottish skiing has been spared its usual uphill struggle. Jackie O'Brien reporting Scotland in the eastern Cairngorms.
However, it is supposed to be spring. Judith.
Not winter.
Well, we did have a spring-like day today. Thank you very much, Sally. We saw beautiful blue skies like this behind me, still some snow lying, and we actually saw values of 10 Celsius, so things are hopefully on the up. And here's the latest or earlier satellite picture. Almost wall-to-wall sunshine across the UK today. Here's the low pressure coming our way tonight, though swirling around in the Atlantic, but still beautiful blue skies for the capital and for parts of the Highlands as well. So all in all, it was a cracking day, well deserved as well. And the fine weather lasts this evening. Now we've got some later evenings. We've got some sunshine to end the day. It stays dry with clear spells across a good part of the country tonight, but during the latter part of the night, cloud increasing in the far west, with rain just nudging into the west coast by tomorrow morning, along with a strengthening southeasterly wind. It stays dry though for the Northern Isles. Lows of around about freezing initially, but they'll start to recover as that cloud rolls in. So it starts off largely dry tomorrow, and it won't be too cold either. But we do have that rain, annoyingly so, across western coastal areas. But I think for much of daylight hours, we should hold on to dry weather, though that rain does eventually extend into Orkney and later in the afternoon into Shetland as well. And a strong southeasterly wind over the Northern Isles too. And strong winds generally for northern Scotland coming in from the southeast. I think we'll hold on to dry weather for the Grampian area, maybe even some brightness for eastern Aberdeenshire, the eastern borders as well, but cloudy elsewhere, and that rain will be quite heavy towards the west coast, I think, at times, particularly over the Western Isles, but the lighter the rain moves inland, it will be, as it moves inland, it will be that wee bit lighter, and temperatures into double figures tomorrow at last. So tomorrow afternoon, that rain pushes away, and tomorrow evening, leaving it dry for most. Some spits and spots of rain towards the northwest corner as we head through tomorrow night and into Saturday. Low pressure never too far away during the course of the weekend, meaning we'll see some rain at times. But actually Saturday starts off on a predominantly dry note and bright. We should see some early sunshine, some rain for the far north, and then we see another band of rain pushing into the far south, extending into central areas. But at least those temperatures are on the mild side, up to 12 Celsius, so there's hope for a shed.
Woo! Thanks very much, Judith. A reminder now of tonight's main news. Yulia Skripal, one of the victims of the Salisbury poisoning, has said her strength is growing every day. A month on from the attack on her and her father, she issued her first public statement saying she's been conscious for over a week. A former A&E consultant has been jailed for 12 years for hoarding submachine guns and ammunition with the intent to kill. And the Health Secretary has used special powers to intervene in the running of NHS Tayside. It comes as the Health Authority faces a large funding gap and amid claims that it used charity cash to cover planned expenses, including new computer systems. And that's Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with the headlines at 8 and the late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, have a very good evening. Bye-bye.